are with Hayley Fleming. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm a little bit under the weather. I got a tooth pulled yesterday out of my head,
Oh,
out of my jaw, so and I had a little bit of a throat thing. But other than that, I'm feeling pretty excited. I'm about to go to the States, about to have my daughter's third birthday, and we're going to head up
beautiful.
and have a bit of family time up there with all the people. So yeah, super excited. And
Nice. Beautiful.
thanks for joining us here on Living Life in the Flow Zone.
Yeah, no worries. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. I'm not too big on kind of introducing people. I kind of would like you to tell the people what you do. So
Okay.
if you want to do that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I have a business called Earth Mama Essentials, and I have incorporated many things into that over the years. Massage, just, body work things, doula work, essential oils and aromatherapy education, business mentoring, and recently Yoni mapping as well. So I guess who I am, a mother of two, 33, and feel young at heart and never want to get old. Have a very adventurous spirit and just want to keep it real, I guess, in life, and just go where my heart takes me and
Amazing.
help
So
others to do the same.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
how long has that Earth Mama Essentials been a thing?
2010. So
Oh, wow. Quite some
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's
how did that
evolving
begin?
every day.
How did that begin? Like, where'd the idea come from?
Well, I was living in a remote town in Western Australia. It was like a mining town, and I just had a baby, my firstborn, Oceana, and I'm beautiful girl, beautiful name. We I don't know, it was like, do I just start going to mums groups and do all that, and it just didn't fit right with me. But I really wanted to be with women, support women, but I didn't want to just kind of go along and whinge about our partners and compare what our babies are doing and all that stuff. So I just put out this little business card called Earth Mama Massage, and I offered mobile massage to women. I'd go to their home so that they could be with their baby, and I'd do body work on them. So that's how it all began. And then I started running.
WA, is it?
Yeah, in the Pilbara in Tom Price. So I started running after that, women's workshops and sound circles, and did some group work. And then I incorporated in my essential oils into that, and started traveling around Australia, educating people on that. Still running women's workshops and empowerment workshops. Then added my birth side, my doula side into that, and then recently Yoni mapping. So it's kind of all just evolving all the time. Yeah.
All the tools to the belt.
Yeah. Fully. Check this out.
Essential oils over here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know, it's a bit like that. It is a bit like that. It's tricky to balance at times.
And so now, is it always you? Is it like you're a solopreneur type thing, or you have a team, or how does that all work?
Yeah, well, I guess I have an aromatherapy business, essential oils business, that is definitely not just me. Obviously, I began that journey and stepped into that journey for my own reasons and brought it in to support my clients and family better. But it's not a solo mission. It's definitely a collaboration, which is still going on day to day, and with multiple people. So I have an organisation now around about 8,000 people in Australia that are connected through my essential oils business, and I do my best to stay in contact with all of them, but obviously it's very tricky. And I have a team of people who I be there for as best I can so they can help to reach them all as well and touch them in some way that's empowering for them. Yeah. So definitely a collaboration.
with that team, obviously, do you have people like mentors who you work with and catch up with regularly? And are you that for other people within that business as well? Or?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a kind of business that allows for freedom. So it's not kind of, when I first started, I was a bit like, oh, don't come near me. I don't want to know about this kind of thing. And I was really resistant to it because
this is like the MLM.
Yeah, marketing-y stuff. Like I resisted it for months. It was probably about 7 months of just kind of going, stay away. I don't want to talk about anything. I just want the oils. And then, yeah, it's at the end of the day, typically structure like this means that there's pressure on people to have to do something they don't want to do. And the way that once I actually opened my heart and my mind to investigating more, I realized that the business model was set up so that the exact opposite can happen, and that people will actually be able to like have to be self-responsible to create their journey and don't have pressure on them to do anything they don't want to do. So I love being a rebel. I like that there's freedom in the business plan. So I ended up stepping into it, and I'm very grateful I did, and moved through some fears and some bullshit to get there. So yeah.
Tell us about that, about the moving through, like what they were and how.
Oh yeah, like just
specifically you moved through.
Yeah, I guess the first thing to make it specific would be just being vulnerable. That's the first thing, like basically voicing them, being willing to be vulnerable enough to say what they are. So they would be things like sounding like I'm selling things when actually I'm just trying to help someone, or you know, feeling like not worthy, like people don't want my support, or there's other better leaders out there than me. I don't know enough about certain things to be able to speak on them, and just really kind of even money blocks and stuff over the years of, it's been 3 years now on that particular journey. And yeah, it's amazing how much we can sabotage ourselves out of pleasure and life and abundance based on some shitty belief that was either given to us or, you know, a story we create. So yeah, I think vulnerability would probably be the one thing that I'd be able to put it down to as far as moving through. Yeah.
So the pressure, or the, I guess the challenges were what exactly? Were like those things you mentioned, feeling like you were selling, feeling like you were they had this pressure, you know, to pressure other people, I guess, and then to be vulnerable, or just to be really open and honest with what you were doing, what you were feeling, and why you were doing it, or.
Yeah, and being vulnerable with myself and the way I'm speaking to myself about it, basically like holding space in that way for me, but also not holding back that conversation and being vulnerable with others, so that if that vibe was going on within me, then the person I'm speaking to is going to be feeling it too. So the best thing I can do is bring vulnerability into that conversation, and sort of like removing elephants out of the room every time you speak to someone, so that there can be a more truthful connection made in the moment, rather than just fluffing around issues and having them be there anyway. Yeah.
Around this thing, just being and naming whatever it was, whatever it is.
Just naming, fully. Just naming the truth and bringing it forward, and then you can move forward from there.
Can you still give us an example? I'm just trying to pinpoint like what that might look like in this. Like.
Oh yeah, okay. What it might look like. So yeah, okay. In a sales perspective, like that first example, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess, you know, if someone's asking questions about what product you have or how it works for them or what it can do for them and whatnot, and you're trying to please them by like giving them all the answers and telling them exactly what they need for their own body, and you're trying to sort of sort them out based on a fear of like you just wanting to be of service, and it's not about the sale, it's about the service kind of thing. So my underlying fears in the beginning might have been like, oh, I'm just going to be here of service and please them, because I was denying the fact that there was a potential for them to purchase something through me. So, but then in the process of doing that, it can be disempowering for them, because then they're coming to me asking for advice, and it's kind of keeping that program alive in the other person, like the answers are outside of themselves and they have to come to somebody to find out. So rather than that, I learned that it wasn't effective for me, it wasn't effective for them. I just had to own the truth that I am actually selling something, and that it's actually okay. And people are big people, and they're, you know, we've all grown ups and we can make decisions about what we buy and what we don't buy. But then I can actually be more truthful in my transaction with that person, and be clear with them, you know, like this is your options, bang, bang, bang. how are you feeling about that? What do you feel like you need, rather than trying to compensate for hiding the sale, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
early days, it was kind of things like that. Yeah, just bringing truth to the moment, really. Bringing as much truth to the moment as you can about how you're feeling and where you're at.
Mm.
Yeah, so real connections can be made.
Yeah, true. There's not, like you said, the naming the thing and naming those elephants is, yeah, then that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And authenticity and honesty, people appreciate it. You know,
Mm.
there's people aren't stupid, and there's the intuition inside that even if the mind
Yeah.
is believing something, intuitively we know something's
Yeah.
going on. So it's better to just put it all on the
That's
table,
it.
isn't it?
So now, like, this is early days, but now it's definitely more, I get to actually help them more because I'm asking them what they think they need, and I'm actually helping them tap into their own intuition,
Mm.
because I've removed that silly background shit that they would have been feeling anyway, even if I tried to avoid it. So I might say, if back in the day, if I was feeling that, I could have said something like, I'm really conscious of not trying to come across in this way. This is my intention. You know, what would you like to have? You know what I mean? Like, just kind of something,
Almost
clearing something
apologizing,
up.
apologizing
Yeah,
for
yeah,
like, yeah,
for your awkwardness, or
yeah, yeah.
yeah, just being real. Mm.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going, look, yeah, if you are just doing that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've had some success. I just want to follow this thread for a bit. So you've had some success. I imagine there's been ups and downs and ups and downs and plateaus and things. So has there been something that's kept you with it? You said this has been a 3-year journey. I imagine in that time you've had ups and downs. So has there been
Yeah,
times
this.
that you've wanted to walk
Mm,
away or
yeah.
kick the can? Like, what's kept you going? If so,
Yeah, like it's really quite brutal that it's not it's not like, even when we do this, like, you know, roller coaster up and down, it's like boom and then boom, and it's like business bipolar, for me. And it's, yeah, look, I go through periods personally. I'm introvert and extrovert, so I'll go through periods where I just completely isolate myself and deal with myself,
I
and
relate.
yeah. So I get quite analytical and can be, you know, really in my head. So the thing that really drops me, it keeps me centered, grounded, and on purpose, is how connected I am into my own power, basically. So, like, I'll watch myself from that third person, like watch myself wavering and going through those ups and downs. But what's steady is my greater awareness of how connected I am to myself, how connected I am to nature, and then also the bigger picture of how there are people in this world that look and view me as something that they want to aspire to in some way, whether it be business or life or whatnot, and that's how I can serve and show up. So, and being willing also to let shit change. Like, we kind of feel like we go up and down, and then when we come back up again, that up has to look the same as the up before, but sometimes it's a completely different up. So just kind of acknowledging the growth and expansion, and the different creative outlets that you can have in your business that don't have to look what everybody expects them to.
It's like
Yeah.
a non-attachment to a particular outcome or a particular vision in your mind.
Yeah. And also too is like, I feel like, you might not be going like super great in a certain part of your business at that time, but you might be putting more energy into your family or your life. And we should be treating life and business as the same thing, and not separate, because really, especially when you're in an entrepreneurial position in some way, your life is your business. So it's kind of, you know, people might be buying a certain thing or subscribing to a certain thing, but it's you that they're actually subscribing to. So even if you're not being like super successful in the way that you vision or expecting to be, you're still, can still hold that ground and consistency, because you're giving yourself credit for where you are, like nailing it in life. So yeah.
Definitely taking stock of. I think that's something that comes up a lot in coaching as well. Like, is having that belief. You know, for me, working with people on that coaching level, is you can see the highest, you know, you can see the vision for the person in their best, shiniest You can see the potential. You can see that, and then often the people are like, they just can't see it for themselves, or they have brief moments of it or glimpses of it. So it's just like maintaining that pristine vision, and also then allowing yourself to commend yourself on the wins that you are having. A lot of people can easily ask them how things are going, and how was last year, how was last week, how was your day, and quickly they can name 10 things that went wrong, but how quickly can they name 10 things that went right for the
fully. It's just what you're focusing on, isn't it?
It's huge that taking stock of the actual wins that you have had. It's definitely comes up a lot. And
definitely.
And in that, you said you do a lot of work with women. That's been happening since 2010, or is that beforehand? Or
pretty much when I started that massage stuff, like working that way. I mean, my whole life really, I've been working with women, because when I think back through even high school and the way that I related to all my friends, and I was always the mentor and the connector between, like, at high school, I was a bit staunch at high school, a bit of a delinquent. And it was like, what, you don't like her? Okay, come and meet her, and like almost put their heads together and be like, what's your problem? I've always had this real, I don't know, just wanting to help people and have people understand each other. And I've always had a knack for that, for people, really. So it's a passion of mine.
What comes through a lot for you with these? Is it, do you run events? Do you have groups, like, do they come together? Is it workshops? What kind of things do you run with women, and what are some of the themes that come through, and the messages that you like to share in that space?
Pretty much just being real in all of the aspects of who you are. So I love helping women to start celebrating the shit that they think is wrong with them. I think that's the first thing that gets my heart ticking, like, with joy, is just when a woman can go, you know what, I am that, and I'm at peace with that now. And just
give us some examples of what that may look like.
Okay, an example of that would be, if a woman's controlling or bossy or something, or I don't know, just a personality trait that comes up. One of the things I love to see them becoming, it's kind of like they're reparenting that side of themselves, or being able to go back into relationship with that part of them, and doing so in such a way that's creative. So instead of going, oh, it's back again, here we go, and then just bashing heads up against walls, it's kind of like, oh, hello you, that part of myself, like a curious way of approaching our own psyche. So there's a beautiful book on this topic that I read called Insanely Gifted by, can't remember his name, but it's amazing. And he even talks about giving aspects of yourself or parts of yourself names and characters, so that you can actually be in relationship with them in a creative space, and have
dialogue with them.
And have it be a very, like, unattached but healthy, creative way of playing through the crap and the stories and all of that stuff. So it's typically we're just trying to rid ourselves of all our imperfections, and or not focus on them at all. But that way, it's almost creates this excited, curious part where it's playful, and you're like, come here, like, let's interact, like, I'm not
it and exploring it. You're the part of you that whatever you is, rather than going, screw you, get away from me, you're not me. And it feeling then like it wants to get louder and wants
that's it
more.
And it creates problems in so many ways that you aren't even aware of, so I love that. And I love
such as what?
So, like, if something's not brought forward, same with this elephant in the room thing we're talking about, if something's not brought forward, and the energy's there anyway, then it is affecting your reality without your consciousness, without your awareness. It's doing its thing anyway. So I love watching women welcome the truth of bringing something to light like that, and having that playful approach, so that it's not wreaking havoc on everything anyway, subconsciously, basically.
And what's the sort of, is there a common, I guess, pattern that you've witnessed when people start engaging in this dialogue with those parts of themselves that may seem like, you know, these negative parts of themselves or unwanted parts of themselves? What happens when you open that playful, curious dialogue?
Yeah, so typically it's not, when I'm in a workshop setting, it's not spoken of a lot. We're more, I get women to, in the inner sense workshops that I've done, not of late, I've been doing a lot of Yoni mapping lately, so I've not been doing them of late. But when I was doing a lot of them workshops, it was more embodied. It was more like I would just encourage them to do silly things and, you know, crawl around on their hands and knees and make animal sounds and like just be real out there, because the body, when you actually crack through the thinking into what the body wants to explore and experience, you notice things about yourself in the way that you're interacting with the other people, or, you know, those practical things can bring about the truth of what's going on. And so there's not a lot to be said. I think that this isn't about kind of like delving into the psyche and the mind and trying to find like shit to just fix all the time. It's just more like just bringing more embodiment into your day, so you can just notice what's going on moment to moment and try not to create a story about some kind of shit personality trait you have that's not there at the moment, but you kind of still have the story, if that makes sense. So it was
I think that answers my question in that.
Okay.
Essentially, it's like it brings a bit more awareness and embodiment as opposed to less mental activity and this kind of story playing out, and that's in control of whatever, you know, of what's happening in your life, and allow you to actually be more present, more in the moment, in the body, in the now.
Yeah, it does fully. Yeah, and it can help you to just get out of that habit of going back to analyzing where it's come from and why, because really it's not to disregard our healing processes, but at the end of the day, it's kind of irrelevant when we're just dealing with what's present now. And if we can do that more fully, then it'll be more effective, I think, than trying to dig and delve and explore.
It's like picking the scab, isn't it? It's never going to heal.
Yeah, that's it.
If you keep, yeah.
Yeah, fully.
So you have been doing, what is Yoni mapping? Describe to us, and what, I know there's a lot of this is blown up a little bit lately. I've heard this term and this Yoni mapping and de-armoring and all this types of stuff. And, and like Yoni massage and sacred spot massage, all this type of stuff is coming up. Recently, it's had a big surge.
For sure.
So for you, like, what is it? And also, I know there's some myths around it. Is there anything that you'd like to share around that in terms of, you know, I know some people have an idea of it, but don't necessarily know what they're talking about. And you've been dealing with it, so I'd love to know what your experience with it is, and also, what your kind of definition and understanding of it is.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so it definitely has some myths or just assumptions that I think that women make. I feel pretty approachable, so I do get a lot of inboxes and questions. Like if I put up a testimonial or something, I'll have an influx of people asking more questions, and I encourage this because I feel the more I can speak on it in an open way, the better understanding women will have, and then potentially maybe want to come for a session too. Because if we just leave their assumptions going wild, we're never going to get to understand things more. So the one thing I could say on it is that it's not focused in any way on one particular thing. So usually when you might go for like some kind of tantra or yoni massage or something like that, it's kind of pleasure focused, or it's like, you know, you go into it with an idea, we're going to heal trauma today, we're going to do this today, we're going to, you know, yoni mapping is very much about holding space for a woman and her body, whether just through touch, basically. So an hour of talk therapy where we're just in a listening space, and then we move to body work and we do an hour of massage, which is, again, a lot of women have never really been touched in a way that's so honoring and feeling so amazing, that doesn't have some kind of expectation that we have to then lead to something else, you know. So it's about really being present with a woman in whatever she is showing up as, and also not, I guess, having a result focus on just pleasure, just trauma, and just seeing what arises in the body in the moment. It can be preparing for birth. It can be healing from birth. It can be, just actually getting to know your pleasure anatomy more, wanting to connect to your own power again in that way, creatively, intuitively. Can be, again, healing from trauma, but it's sort of, to me, we all have trauma in our body, in our lives, and we have different degrees of trauma, and that's also then based on our experience, but then our perception of our trauma too. So like, we could both have had the same event go on, but you feel less traumatized about it than I do. So where it's like, for us to go in, for me as a facilitator, to go in with this idea of like, we're going to heal someone's trauma, or if we hear them speak about something that's traumatic, we're almost,
your mind off and close your heart to what's possible.
What's possible, yeah. And also, it makes the person feel wrong for having the trauma. It's not normal to, and then who is trauma compared to what, So it's kind of like, we just need to give the voice, give a space for a person to feel safe and validated and supported, loved, held, honored, and then just let the session be. I find that, sometimes a woman might go through an experience in session with me like that, and then quickly she'll shift into pleasure from that space, and vice versa. She might be in a pleasurable space and getting to know what she likes and doesn't like and whatnot in her own body, and then all of a sudden she'll get emotional. So again, we can't sort of predict what's happening, and also make an assumption that it's the same with birth. If you watch a woman birthing, you can't assume that the sound she's making and the crankiness coming from her is meaning that she's in pain. Like, a woman is experiencing whatever she is, and I love the sessions because I get to give a woman that full permission to just be whatever they want to be in that session, and not have any expectation from myself, but also just from the space. So yeah.
Amazing. And it seems like a very one-on-one type thing. Like, you have to sort of, it's like a massage, you have to go in, the two people, or one, there might be more people on one, but it's like, is there some principles or ideas that you can sort of give women to take home and sort of DIY, do it yourself, like that?
Fully.
And opening up space, or the self massage, is there anything, principles or even techniques that you can share with people that they can sort of try on to get a feel of it for themselves wherever they are?
Yeah, look, there's a lot, and we do go into that in sessions. At the end we have a full chat about home play, and talk about what's come up in the session, but then also where to direct that energy into their own home life. For a lot of women, I know some amazing aware women, and I was that myself, that still have a problem with connecting to themselves in this way. It's natural that, especially the way,
by this way,
meaning sexually, going in through the body, and into connecting into sexuality and stuff. It's definitely the hardest part of ourselves to connect to, because I feel like it's usually got the most stigma, or the most conditioning and stories and fully. So it's not shame. Exactly. Yep. So it's a tricky journey to begin, and everyone's at a different level of already being on that journey, just naturally. Some women are more connected, some women are happy with their sex life, some aren't, blah blah blah, whatever. So but a nice way to begin, I feel like I should speak to people who are maybe just haven't ever even adventured that at all. That's who I feel like I'm speaking to at the minute, so I will. It's kind of like, what we do a lot is just have a shower, wash ourselves, like just boom, 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 put our clothes on, go to bed or whatnot. But we don't walk around the house naked enough, I don't think. So I think just general nudity, spending time, being with yourself that's a little bit more present. So making up a blend, rubbing it on yourself, but not just like rubbing it in, like actually really slowly being connected, trying to breathe deeply into the heart and then breathe deeply into the belly, and just noticing the difference between the two of those breaths. Creating like 5 minutes of your day. So if you're a morning person, it might be as soon as you wake up. If you're not, and you're more of a nighttime person, it might be before you go to bed. just finding some space every day that you even if you're just laying there still and you're not moving for a little while, but you're in that intention of just spending that time on your body, and you've just got one hand on your heart and one hand on your womb or your yoni, and just breathing there. So just connecting really the breath to the body daily, and with no expectation, no tools, no tricks, just committing to the idea that it's our responsibility to come back into that home space again. It's not somebody else's, it's really our own responsibility. And what can be birthed from being in that space with yourself is really quite phenomenal. So yeah, phenomenal. So I'd say just keeping it really simple, and also dancing, like putting music on, just moving around the house in a more joyful and playful way. So it's really about just adding as much shit to your day as you can that you enjoy, really. Because if you
that you love.
yeah, because it's like pleasure is not just about sex, it's about life. So if you can add more moments, or if you see a crack in your day where you're like, oh, that could be added there, that could be added there, like, why don't I listen to music when I cook anymore? Oh, maybe I should put my speaker in the kitchen, you know, or maybe I should leave some massage oil next to my bed, and maybe I should create, you know, like just create these little habits, and think about bringing more pleasure into your day to day in all ways, and then yeah, just being present with your body and noticing the changes in your body when you're doing that. That would be the first thing I would say as a whole to kind of start that journey. And I find with women, they just, when they contact me, they'll say, I don't know why I'm coming, but I just know I need to come. So something just goes boom, I'm aligned with this work and I'm coming, you know? So it's kind of, pardon the pun, sorry.
Pardon the pun. Pun not intended.
I had to say it, sorry, I was like, kind of, as an elephant, so I had to say it. Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of like
you have that effect on people.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like you have to be ready for the work too. You don't want to be forcing it. Like just do what is within your joy in that moment. And if that's just laying there still on the bed doing some breath work or gently massaging your breasts or whatnot, then that's all it is for that day. It doesn't have to be, could be just dancing, but don't force it. Just be like, actually give yourself permission to reclaim it, but then do it in a way that feels right for you.
Yeah,
don't compare yourself to others as well, because there's a lot of like, that's one thing about the tantra community stuff that gets me a bit irked up is like, you know, how tantric are you? You know, it's kind of like, well, not very, but we shouldn't be comparing each other to each other. We should be, this journey inward home is about our inward home journey, not compared to somebody else's or what's successful or not in that way. So yeah.
I feel that's a big one. There's a lot of, in like you mentioned, in the community, it's like, oh, but this person is so whatever, woke, or so orgasmic, or so tantric, or so open-hearted, or so non-judgmental, or, you know, then there's that comparison thing, and even in that, you know, I think that's disempowering already as soon as you're comparing yourself to someone out there.
Oh, exactly.
But in particular, even judging yourself on yourself, like, oh, I used to be so X, Y, Z, and now I am. Even judging yourself to a past version of yourself, or a version of yourself, and comparing that, I think is a recipe for disaster as well.
It is, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's not
anything that brings you back into the moment, like the breath that you mentioned, connecting breath and body, which I love. You know, this is why I do qigong every single day.
Oh, beautiful.
But why I'm all about that, you know, path is because it connects the mind intention with the breath, with the movement. And, you know, we're cultivating deep self-love, the deep inner smile, and, you know, it's very difficult to feel bad when you're doing things that you love and when you're present and when you have a smile on your face and a smile on your core, you know, very difficult. So
that's actually one of my favorite things in session, when watching a woman like in her head and then just gently encouraging her to just tilt the corner of her lips up and have a smile and just and it's like the whole energy can shift in just the smallest thing. That's what I mean, like it doesn't have to look a certain way. It's just the simplest little subtle changes in the day can make a huge difference.
And what they say, if you change your shape, you change your state. So it's
Yeah.
to change your shape is curl upwards, and very, very
Yeah.
feel bad.
It's
And
so true.
do you find that you said people come to you, the women come to you with, they don't necessarily know why, they're trusting their gut instinct, and they sort of resonate with what message you're putting out there. Do you find that there is a wide variety of different kind of issues or problems or challenges or experiences that women are having that they come, or is it kind of, it's sort of like a small niche of 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 things that people come for? And is there a common kind of, once they do the work, that a common kind of result that happens from working with you or doing
it's so broad. It really is. It's like, I've had women come and actually feel more intimidated about just being naked on the bed than actually having their yoni not examined, but we're used to having examinations in that area and things. So it's like, that's okay, because that's happened before, but just being in a vulnerable space on the bed, it's like, that's the bit that kind of gets them nervous. So it can be just from that, just body image stuff. I do feel a common thing that people say to me in feedback forms and stuff is that they feel less concerned about the world and like what everyone thinks about them, and they just have this like a little bit more of an
self-consciousness. Or
yeah, that is a common thread, that I feel women have less self-consciousness, a little bit more focus on their own, what their wants and desires and needs are, and are maybe in less of that comparative space in their mind. That's been a common feedback, which is just like gold to me, like music to my ears, because it's like, it's pretty much without having to speak and coach someone for weeks on end, but to have that result because they've embodied something different in their body that they've never allowed themselves to do or be vulnerable in. It's powerful. It's like we can talk for weeks and weeks and weeks about the same shit, but if we just actually go to drop in and go to the body, into the power seat of your body, which is your womb, it's amazing what can happen. So there really is so many reasons for a woman to come. I can't even begin to try and sort of say there's a common thread. One common thread I've had a little bit of recently is women feeling like they may have been sexually abused in their life but can't remember it. It's like they believe they've just blocked details out or whatnot. And what we've investigated, like not just me and one particular woman, but the trend of this conversation going on. I have a few, I never really speak about this with the woman in person because it's her time to talk, not me, but how I feel about it is that we grew up in a generation where we had, I don't know if you grew up in Australia when you were younger, maybe not, but we used to have these like neighborhood watch stickers on every house, and it was like the whole, like, there's a pedophile on every corner of the street was a big thing when I was growing up. So I noticed that it's like a lot of the women around my age and my generation have this huge foggy area around whether they were sexually abused or not. But I wonder, just curiously, whether it has something to do with the way that we were just programmed as children to watch out for predators. It was really strong and like drummed into us at school, parents, like it's no one's fault, but just speaking truth. Like that's just kind of where the world was at that point, and how we, it's kind of like it sets up some kind of a response in the body or a belief in the body that it's not safe.
Like this idea that it's been planted from
outside. So often it's like a woman could go for a long time in her life trying to remember this trauma that apparently happened, and her whole sex life and relationships are affected by it. But did it happen? I'm not sure. Like, we don't, you know what I mean? It's like,
and
it's hard.
Regardless of if it happened or if it didn't. So, for instance, do you have a kind of a message to send for if it did happen or if it didn't happen? What's the kind of way to well,
that's the thing. Whether it happened or it didn't happen, it's like you could know exactly, detail by detail, exactly what happened and still be sitting here in front of me in this present moment, or you could never know and still be sitting here in this so really all we can do is then stop the investigation, really in our mind and just be in the present moment with what our body's doing anyway. So, for example,
what effect does that have?
well, you could come for yoni mapping today and have something arise, and then tomorrow you could come and something completely different again. So it's like not to have some we're changing like moment to moment, like every single minute our cells are being regenerated, you know. So just what it does is, I guess, stops us from limiting, I guess, ourselves to like where we could be or should be or what it's meant to look like, and just again being present with what our body is doing at the moment, because we shouldn't be like, I guess, I don't know the word, but it's not limiting, it's like defining, that's the word. We shouldn't be defining ourselves anyway from our trauma or our past or our expectations, or maybe a decision we made last Friday when we went out and did something we, you know, like we're very quick to define ourselves and our life and who we are based on a couple of things that we might do that's apparently good or bad, you know. So
or have been done to us.
Or have been done to us, yeah. So it's just whether it happened or didn't happen, it's kind of like, do we want to be, how are we defining ourselves? How is this defining us? And how can we be then maybe choosing a better version of that, you know, like we can choose how we want to be defined based on that in the moment. And yeah, reclaim that opportunity, like to be able to create what you want, not try to figure out how you can be defined, basically. Yeah,
I like that. It's kind of again, it's kind of coming back to presence and not attaching to story, and it's like it's taking that belief, you know, the power of belief, and using it for your advantage as opposed to your detriment.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there sort of a common, I know we talked about kind of these assumptions or these myths, is there anything that annoys you or frustrates you about kind of around either yoni mapping or this tantric community, or, you know, the spirituality? Is there something that a conversation that's happening, or these ideas that kind of annoy you or frustrate you, that you would kind of sort of steer people in a different direction, or with some of the focuses, or something you come across and sort of gets you like, people would just kind of in the way that it is? Or
I do, like, I mean, I get a little annoyed at times by things, but I do have a pretty strong sense of compassion that everybody's on a different path, and there's someone for everyone, you know, like, it's really, I've just been through too much in my business and watching different versions of the same thing being done. So like, I'm one version of how someone creates success in that model that I work for, but there's so many others. So it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm able to, in my truth, say that that's a shit way to do it and that's not. Like, I can't, but I know that all I can do is encourage a woman to have a conversation with someone, like, because a lot of the time what I've been hearing in feedback is that, you know, they might work with a man on sexuality or a woman on sexuality, and it's like they have this initial chat on the phone. The skill to be able to hang up the phone and not commit to something, or even go out on a date and not commit to something and go home, like there's this little space in between all of the stimulus, like the conversation, the date, the kiss, whatever, where you can actually just disconnect and check into how you're feeling. That is all I can hope for, is that people or facilitators that are offering this work allow for that. Because I'm not offended if a woman comes to speak to me about yoni mapping and then changes her mind, or I'm not offended. Like, I would prefer her to be in her truth, and choosing from an embodied place of like, yes, my whole body is saying yes to this and it's consensual. And that's the only thing that I think that would piss me off, is that if a woman's not either giving herself that space, that little tiny space in between, or whether she's not offered it or encouraged to have it, because she might not have that skill, you know. So it's up to us as facilitators to provide it.
Totally. And so is that something that you kind of require, or do you have kind of a process when you're talking to people where you definitely put that on the table for them to ensure that you got
the whole session.
Yes.
Yeah, fully. We have consent like 3 times throughout the session, verbal consent again, and it's again, you can say yes all you like, but your Yoni will say yes or no. You can tell, whether a woman's a yes or a no, and you can help her through that, or allow it to be what it is, whatever she wants to do. So it's very, very delicate work. It should be very quick to tell if somebody's in it for themselves or in it for the woman, really. And but again, there's a lot of great stuff out there where people are being open to the idea of this as something that they can venture and work through and discover about themselves. And I think that's a beautiful thing that all this stuff's taking a rise and peak in awareness in the spiritual community and life. But what I do really want more of is normalizing it. So I think it would be a damn shame if all this work was always marketed as a spiritual thing. I think that would be a damn shame, because there's so many physical reasons that doing Yoni mapping is definitely more of a holistic modality. It's not just spiritual focused, pleasure focused.
So do you mean as in like Yoni mapping alongside acupuncture, for example?
Yeah, fully. Yeah. So this modality has been approved as an alternative therapy. It's not just like a woo-woo thing that we're just saying, oh, this is good for that or whatnot. Like, we've actually, the person who created this training, Bonnie, has actually made the effort to have it in requirement with what they need, like provided with what they need to be recognized, so we can get insurance and we can actually practice professionally. And I think that's definitely something I'm proud to work under that, to be involved in that, because I think that it would be a shame if all of the sexual empowerment and work that can be offered to the world is only done through that channel of spirituality, because there's a lot of women who I see. I am a spiritual being. I'm definitely aware and conscious and things like that, but I'm also, like, grew up in West Sydney and, was a bit of a delinquent, and, I've got my real self. I'm a human, and I feel like if I only work with people in that consciousness space, then we're missing. There's so many women that could benefit from work like this that we're just missing.
Preaching to the choir, and
yeah. There's definitely, that's the only thing that I guess I am a bit passionate about. That it shouldn't be just about getting more enlightened.
Open the blinkers a bit.
Yeah, fully.
And so it shouldn't be only about getting more enlightened. And what would it?
Well, I think, I guess, the tantric thing is about, like, it's just more dropping in more, reaching higher awareness, dropping more, it's like, that's good and it suits so many people, and it definitely, I'm not making that wrong at all. It's the most amazing thing. I'm just saying that it's not everybody's way. Everybody's got a way of moving through their own world and their own life. And if sexual exploration, whether it be for trauma, pleasure, whatever, doesn't matter, is everybody has that opportunity to reclaim that and to come home to themselves in that way, regardless of belief, regardless of their social ways that they're interacting in their world. It should be talked about more in a normalized way.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
And I feel the same in terms of the meditation and mindfulness work. It's great that it is normalized in a normal conversation. But for me, just sort of doing it for its own sake is excellent. So sort of doing the practice for the practice sake, but then applying it to whatever it is that you're into in life, whatever your purpose. Whatever you're up to in your life, whether if you're a sports person, a dancer, an accountant, a doctor, or whatever it is. If you're a mum, stay-at-home dad, single parent, gay, lesbian, whatever. Applying what you learn in your whatever is your joy, whatever is your excitement, I feel is more useful than going, do it this way, this is what it's all about, it's only about this. It's like your applications, the principles are sound, but the application is, it's
so variable. Fully. Exactly. And that's how people get the most empowered, because then they get to create their version of it, and they get to yeah, they get to move beyond, away from what it's meant to look like, sound like, be like, and actually create something. And it's, they're probably likely to keep it up and do it because
it's going to be more enjoyable and more,
yeah,
like
they've created it. Yeah.
And
yeah.
and talk a little bit more. I'd love you to talk a little bit more about consent and what that looks like. I know that because there might be, we talk about full body yeses, and we talk about where's the line where it's like, this is just fear talking. I want to do this thing, but there's a part of you that says, oh, I don't know if it's like, it's a fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of I'm not good enough, shame, guilt, all that stuff. Where's the line where that isn't, like, that might be a no on some level, but where it's like, where do we go? Fuck it. Anyway, that's just the voice of fear, and I'm going to say yes to this thing anyway. Like, where, like, talk to us maybe.
I think the line is the willing to be responsible for yourself. So it's like, at the end of the day, you can say yes or no. But if you're in a place of self-responsibility and willing to own the consequences to your yes or your no, and yeah, that's really all we can do. Like, I mean, as a facilitator, obviously I'm asking for consent. I'm letting them know before the session even comes about that I will be asking for consent, and making it feel completely, it's not like we wait till the moment and then we go like, do you want this or don't you? Like, it's like it's talked about beforehand. So I think if we're talking about sex only, for consent, then I would say having a safe, open discussion, being able to, or feeling like you're able to have that with someone. And like, for example, if you're feeling not into it and something's changed in you, you need to be able to voice that, and you need to have some kind of a safe space to be able to say that.
If we talk about sex, or in terms of like broadening it up into anything, could be saying yes to working with someone, could be saying yes to job opportunity, could be saying yes to giving yourself time, 5 minutes a day to do these practices.
Fully.
Like self-consent, but also consent in others, like you mentioned there. I think it's great to have that self-responsibility. You're saying yes, you're saying no. You're the person who's actually dealing with the consequences, and that self-possession, that self-ownership that you mentioned. You're owning the decision, essentially.
That's right.
I've heard a lot, the kind of this freeze response, like it's like a fight, flight, or freeze. Like, oh, something's happening. I can't say anything, and I just go quiet and let the thing happen, and then I feel violated. Like, is that something that you have experienced yourself, or you've seen and witnessed? And you can add to that conversation?
Yeah, definitely. That is such a natural way of a body responding to fear. And again, if it's not talked about, if it's just come on, like there's something's come to the moment where another boundary's crossed in a way, or another thing's happened that the body goes, whoa, hang on a second, and it's too fast for the person to actually process and then assimilate and then speak truth on, because it's all going on too quickly. I find that the body will and does. Even sometimes I'll notice that in session, if I feel like a woman is all of a sudden starting to disconnect in some way, like she might, just like everything changes and her nerves are there and stuff, I'll just stop, pretty much not move my hand or anything at all, and offer her the opportunity to speak about how she's feeling, like even if she just gives it a word, or and just hold there and space and give it the space. So sometimes it's not about changing from, oh, I really felt like okay with this, but now I'm not. We go from one extreme to the other, and then when the other doesn't happen, we get traumatized. It's like maybe there's a space in between both of those things, that if it's actually allowed to be, the space is allowed to be, then we won't have this whole consent, not consent, traumatized, not traumatized thing going on, So again, it does come down to that just presence with that, and allowing someone to feel safe and vulnerable enough in their vulnerability, to just voice it and speak it and process it together, So where one person's not offended, to hear the other person's truth.
I think that's what you just mentioned there is knowing that you're safe enough to to express yourself without feeling like you're wrong, feeling like you're, you know,
Yeah.
or even if you're the person who's opening the space, to then not hold on to how something should look, so then you get offended. So you're actually
That's right. Yeah.
truly presenting the space for someone to be however they're being, and
That's right.
allowing it to be.
And sometimes women have to say no, because especially when they come to therapy like this, part of their healing, if you will, is actually they might have had sex every night with a man that, say, an ex-partner or something that they didn't enjoy or want for years, and they never ever felt safe enough to say no. So it's such a powerful thing sometimes for a woman to get the full permission to say no. And you know, so it's kind of like if you're attached to something as a facilitator, then you can't allow for that. You can't allow for that opportunity for someone's truth to come forward, you know. And often it might not look like what we think it should look like, but it is exactly what's needed in the moment.
100%. So
yeah.
are there male Yoni mappers, or is it really only a woman's thing?
Well, not that studied this modality, no. This modality, we have, Bonnie's trained 26 of us, I think it was, that we went to 3 intensive retreats and done over 500 hours of study online, in person. Yeah, lots of things. So not Yoni mapping that I've studied and that I offer with my colleagues around Australia, no men studied with us. But yes, I'm sure there are men offering some kind of Yoni massage and things. I've never personally had an experience with a man. So yeah, I can't really speak on that, I guess. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess what's exciting for you coming up? Like you're working from your space, where are you based, and what's coming up
Yeah.
in the future? Have you got any events, anything planned for the coming rest of the year and beyond?
Yeah, so working out of my space in Lennox Head, that's where I am now at my house. I've got a room out the front that my clients come to, and I've been traveling doing Yoni mapping, so I've got a lot of Yoni mapping trips in the pipeline. I'm going to Margaret River in September in Western Australia, Tasmania on Sunday for a week, down to the Illawarra again, Wollongong. I've been doing that a few times, so yeah, just a lot of travel for that. Just, you know, reaching as many people.
Happening down there?
So basically, I have a set up space down there in all different locations, and have women come to see me for Yoni mapping. While I'm there, I will be doing an event in Tasmania that's actually not really an open one this time. It's really, I feel very intimate with my work right now. I'm helping a lot of people one-on-one. And I'm really just flowing with that right now. I feel what's brewing in the new year is more open events, more workshopy kind of bigger events and things. But for me personally at the moment, I'm really enjoying the body talk, like person to person, just being present with somebody and witnessing them, you know, in that way. So yeah, lots of travel and yeah, still just mentoring people one-on-one over the phone with my business and things as well. So I'm really enjoying intimacy at the moment in business and life. Yeah.
Thanks for the intimacy, for being one-on-one.
Yeah, thank you, Zulu.
This will be going out to obviously the tribe. So is there any kind of, I guess, anything that's coming through for you? Like I think we'll probably wrap it up shortly. But is there anything coming through that has been, you know, in the front of the mind or coming deep from within that you feel has been important that you'd like to share? Either a question, lessons or learnings that you've had, or anything that's coming through.
To end with?
Yeah.
Well, yesterday I was laying there thinking about like how we're not in a relationship with death. This is getting deep.
I love it. This is
So it's something I've always been fascinated with. I remember being young and my mum strange as she is, she used to actually encourage us to write down our list of like what we wanted our funeral and stuff. And all my friends would just think she was a weirdo and think it was very morbid to think that. But my mum was like, no, I want to know exactly what you'd want and whatnot. And I think that there's this thing about contemplating death, and having a healthy relationship with that contemplation that can allow you to be more fully alive. And I'm bringing this up because it's literally just been part of my last 48 hours, that, how we just don't go there a lot of the time in our day, or we're focused so much on the shit that's going on, and the broad big picture is sometimes hard to live from that perspective because it involves death, if that makes sense. So it's like, how can we really look from the big broad perspective if we are denying the fact that death is a part of that? So yeah, that's kind of is guaranteed. Yeah. So I kind of feel like that's where I'm at the moment. I have been at this place with that topic a lot in life, but I feel like each time it just becomes another awareness of it, or yeah, it sits differently with me each time. Like sometimes I've been in that space and actually been really depressed and down about it and had to work through it. But this last time, like this last 48 hours, it's been so liberating to contemplate that. And yeah, I'm just trying to be playful with that as well. So that's really all I feel like offering.
So it's like contemplating that mortality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, because I always think it's such a short speck of time we have here, So when I contemplate how I'd like to be remembered, and how I'd like, what I'd like people to be talking about at my, when I do and the celebration of life, it's like that I feel is super empowering as well. So it's definitely, it is one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Stephen Covey's begin with the end in mind, and it is super empowering. It can be super depressing if you focus solely on just that. But yeah, definitely, think about it in a way that's like, okay, cool. Now, what do I want my life to be about? Because there isn't much time. It definitely can create a sense of urgency and a sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I don't really want to waste any time.
Well, it sifts through the bullshit, doesn't it? Because it's like, well, okay, if you're really open to that, then you'll quickly recognize what you do or don't want to spend energy on, or what you want or don't want in life. And again, like talking about removing elephants out of the room, like death is the biggest fucking elephant that there is. So if you can bring that out and like, hang that on the wall, then it's like the biggest elephant you could find. So I'm really enjoying laughing about that a little bit the last 48 hours.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You have an amazing day. And
I will. It started beautifully from this. Yeah. Thanks for your vibes.
Thanks for your time and your energy
sharing
space with us. Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Yep, sounds good.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay, then.
Keep doing the amazing work, and hopefully see you soon.
Okay, thanks heaps for having me.
Pleasure.
Okay, see you.
Flow growing, the growth flowing.
Will do. Bye.